Hey, what's up, everybody? Give me 1 second, because of course, as I go launch this little thing I got here, immediately breaks. Welcome to the party, pal. As always, welcome to Simply Cyber. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm Jerry. Welcome to Simply Cyber Firesides, where we dive deep into the most pressing topics in cybersecurity with the industry's brightest minds. I'm your host tonight, of course, and tonight we're going to be exploring a fascinating and slightly unsettling frontier: the intersection of artificial intelligence and social engineering. As AI technology becomes more sophisticated, we're seeing it's being used not just to defend against cyber threats, but also as a powerful tool for social engineering attacks. From deepfake voice calls to AI-generated phishing campaigns, the landscape of social manipulation is evolving rapidly. And that, Simply Cyber community, is why I'm thrilled to welcome tonight's guest, a good friend of mine and a rock star in this space, Perry Carpenter. Perry's a renowned cybersecurity leader. He's the host of the award-winning 8th Layer Insights podcast and author of multiple books, including Transformational Security Awareness and FAIK, all about AI, which we're going to be looking at and talking to him about specifically. His groundbreaking work on AI-enabled social engineering has helped orgs understand and prepare for this literally emerging and urgent threat landscape. Perry brings a unique perspective, blending behavioral science, cybersecurity expertise, and a deep understanding of how AI is reshaping the social engineering playing ground. Now, remember, everybody, Team SC, this is an interactive session. You never know what's going to happen. I could just flake out on the intro. These things happen, right? I encourage you to drop your questions in chat as we're going through. Perry says something you want to hear more about, let us know. Perry says something that's confusing or you'd like to dig deeper, ask the question. Let's get in there, right? So whether you're curious about defending against AI-powered attacks, or you want to understand the psychological elements of modern social engineering, Perry's here to share his insights. So please, squad members, grab your Oprah emotes in chat if you have them. Otherwise, just say what's up in chat and get ready to please join me in welcoming Perry Carpenter to Simply Cyber Firesides. Hey, Perry, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Perry, you've done a million different things. And for those who don't know, I actually met Perry maybe, I want to say 3 years ago at Black Hat. I got introduced to James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet. And, you know, I feel like James, he might even be in that room with you. Like you and James McQuiggan are always kind of rolling deep together, right?
Yeah. And actually, I don't remember the order of events, but I also know at one point I like desperately reached out to you because I needed somebody to fill a slot on a podcast.
Yep.
Where we were talking about gamification and understanding hacking tactics as a part of that. I was like, I've got all these other components because I would put together the podcast in like a magazine style. It's like, but there's this other area that I just really need an expert on. And I had seen you on LinkedIn talking about what you were doing at the time. I was like, I wonder if Jerry's free. And I emailed you, and like within a day, we got the interview, got it recorded, and then like 2 days later, the podcast episode came out, and it made everything pull together perfectly. So thank you for that as well. That was about that same time frame.
Oh, that's awesome. And really, hey, chat, Team SC, I just want to point out, this is like a literal perfect example of networking and just saying, yes, Perry, we kind of knew each other. He reaches out. He has a bit of a challenge that I can help solve. I gladly did it without any expectation of compensation or reciprocation. And now years later, we have monthly calls together. He's coming on my show, sharing his knowledge with you guys, making time. He's traveling right now, and he made the time for this. So it just goes to show you, you never know where these relationships are going to grow. But I certainly am super glad that you emailed me that day, Perry, and we've become the friends that we have become. So let's
absolutely.
So you talked about the podcast, right? You are a award-winning podcaster for many of your projects, including 8th Layer Insights. What is it about podcasting that makes you so good at it? Like, what is it that you're doing that a schlub like me isn't doing?
Well, I mean, So we're doing fundamentally different types of podcasts, and so you're doing amazing at the type of podcast you do. I do pretty good at the kind of podcast that I do. So traditionally, I've been like really, really interested in the audio only podcast
Mm.
and being able to take somebody, let them put headphones on, and then just they can escape into this kind of universe that you create. And that's what I was trying to do with Eighth Layer Insights. Right when I began that, I had a background in music production. I was a musician. I always grew up doing tons of multi-track recording and putting things together. So I kind of lived in headphones a lot. And what I really wanted was a show kind of like Freakonomics or one of those NPR shows that's very magazine driven. But also, you put your headphones on, and there's just like this little music bed, the voice is at just the right level, and then maybe even something unexpected happens and things take a weird turn. And then all of a sudden, you're almost in the middle of a story, even though you're learning about something. And so that really fascinated me. But over the past couple years, Eighth Layer Insights has grown from that thing that probably took me 60 hours of my own work per episode to create to something that's much more like what you hear in standard podcasts, even though there is kind of a front end bumper and a back end bumper that's totally custom every time. Um, but I've been able to cut down a lot of the workload on that by going more towards a standard type. Though the other show that I did, Digital Folklore, that we're also on hiatus for, was intensely immersive and won several awards for the way that we would look at things like urban legends and online culture and wrap a fictional universe and story around that, but then also interview academic experts. So that's kind of the background, but I'm starting to transition a little bit more into your world as well.
I love it. And I want to say shout out to some of the people in chat. So many wonderful regulars in here. I see Kimberly Can Fix It, who's modding and dropping links to Eighth Layer Insights. Thank you very much, Kimberly. Mara Levy's a big fan of Digital Folklore. Perry, Nick Barker from
Nice.
Oregon's in the house. I see Philip Martin and FedEx, Nerman, a lot of regulars, Adam V. Great to see everybody here today. So, you know, I'm going to ask you this. This is just kind of funny because Nick Barker says, let's get weird. Perry, share with us, because I think that this is phenomenal. When you go, so you travel a lot for your job, and you're constantly recording and doing meetings and stuff from hotel rooms. What is a routine that you have when you go to hotel rooms?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So back before I got really good software and the microphone that had integrated software that would do a lot of noise reduction, the first thing that I would do when I got to my hotel room was take out my mic, take out my audio interface, hook that up to the laptop, and then I would essentially build this sound reducing cave around everything by taking some of the big plushy chairs, turning those over on top of the desk that was in front of it, and kind of, creating this big cove that would come over, and then potentially even adding some of the blankets around the back if I needed to do that. And I still do that if I'm in a hotel that has a noisy air conditioner that I can't really control or a lot of stuff around. But sometimes now the microphone and the software do enough reduction of everything that I would otherwise be concerned about, that I don't have to do that that much. I might just take some pillows and kind of put things around everywhere, and I don't build this whole hidey hole that would freak out the hotel staff if they walked in the room.
Yeah, Nick Barker calls it your audio fort. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
And not to put you on the spot, if you have a picture, because I know you have documented these
Yeah.
different forts you've built. If you have one that's readily available that you'd want to share on stream, and if it's not readily available, that's okay. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't have one readily available, but I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem. It's one of my favorite things about Perry, and I have seen the pictures before, and they're always creative. They're always interesting. And yes, they very much look like a blanket fort, Mariana Albright. It's so perfect. So, Perry, let's talk about what we're here for today, AI and social engineering. So I want to first start with the book, but I do want to make sure that we gravitate over to DEF CON Social Engineering
Sure.
Village and the work you did over there. But let's talk about this book. So this is your book. It's available right now on Amazon, and I'll drop a link. But it's called FAIK, which, by the way, wicked clever title on the book. I love that. What exactly is this? How is this different than like all the other like AI stuff going out there right now?
Yeah, that's a good question because there is a whole bunch of AI just mess out there where everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. Um, I guess what sets this book apart is, yes, I am jumping on the bandwagon a little bit, but I have a passion for AI and have since before the Chat GPT moments at the about this time 2 years ago. So November 30th, 2022, Chat GPT came around, and then everybody wanted to be an AI expert after that because they saw that it could fundamentally change the world. About a year before that, maybe just a little bit more, people were able to access what would become ChatGPT through the API. And there were a couple companies that were building interesting products around that. So I started to get involved with those and started to understand where things were going. And about 6 months after that, in mid 2022, is when products like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and DALL-E from OpenAI got released in various forms, and people started to, including me, both really get interested in it, and see some of the possibilities. But then a big segment of society also got really freaked out because up until then, AI, artificial intelligence, the way that we thought about it was your basic machine learning that's powering your Spotify algorithm that would suggest your next thing, or your YouTube algorithm that would say, if you like this video, you'll also like this one, or your Netflix one. And they got pretty good at that. At the same time, though, Siri really sucked. Still does, even with Apple Intelligence. Google Pixels, their embedded AI kind of sucked. Autocomplete sucks. Next word prediction on your phone keyboard kind of sucks. But then something fundamentally changed, right? Generative AI changed everything, and because it has the ability to understand context, well, now it can do these very magical things. And when I take my lifelong obsession with deception, and then you take what is coming and what is currently available with AI, and you mash those two together, what you see is huge opportunity for cyber criminals and even merely curious people that want to create a little bit of chaos. They can do things that people never thought was possible. And I wanted to be at the front end of that to help get everybody prepared.
So you just mentioned your lifelong obsession with deception. That is curious, especially considering you're a morally,
Yeah.
you're morally a just guy. You're a righteous dude.
Right.
So a fascination with deception doesn't seem to be. It seems to be like the wrong. It's not the label I would pick out of the hat and stick on your
Yeah.
forehead. So, why are you obsessed with deception?
That's a really good question. I just always have been trying to understand, like, why we as rational people, and maybe I didn't have the words for this like when I was a little kid, but why we as people that believe that we're rational, can all of a sudden within a couple seconds hear the right story or see even the right movement from somebody's hands, and all of a sudden everything within their brain gets hijacked and they believe something that's not true. I mean, something as similar is like, an old school coin trick where somebody retains a coin in one hand but then puts all their body language where they look at the other hand. And there's something about like this, the perception of weight in a hand and the eye gaze over there, that makes all of our minds fundamentally believe that something should be in that hand. And yet we know intellectually that if we're watching a coin magician, it's probably not there. But for some reason, everything just feels scrambled. And then fast forward a couple decades, I got really fascinated with, why, even though we know better, can somebody scam us just like that? And it all comes down to our minds are just really receptive to story, and we could get jerked around by attention the manipulation of attention, which also gets back into generative AI, because what is the paper that actually is the kind of the creation point for modern generative AI? It was this paper that came out of Google DeepMind, or actually Deep Brain at the time, in 2017, called "Attention is All You Need." And magicians, con artists, deception artists, disinformation artists for millennia have been taking advantage of attention to manipulate the way that we perceive reality.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And what's even kind of crazier, again, I'm producing a lot of content, and I'm working in partly in a content space. And right now, a lot of the thought leaders in the content space are saying, like Alex Hormozy, for example, if you're familiar with them, chat, he's saying that basically attention is the new uh, real estate or asset. Like that's what you're trying to buy. You're trying
Yeah.
to buy attention because people are so adjusted to these like 30-second, 60-second slots that like you've got to get the attention. And if you can retain them, that's where you're getting value and generating revenue and stuff like that. So it really is interesting how hyper focused on it was information. It still is information for a lot of reasons, but that information is being weaponized in order to get attention and to socially engineer people. So
Yeah, and I mean, in the creator space, you do hear people talk about the attention economy all the time,
yeah.
because it is within less than a fraction of a second, you have that much time to like keep the eyeball on the screen so that they don't doom scroll to the next thing.
Yes, doom scroll. It's a thing. Let's get some questions here. I do want to talk about your book and disinformation
Sure.
relative to some recent events, but some questions in chat. Steve McMichael, he's from Canada. So hello, Steve, up there. I see the potential to fundamentally change the world. Some see a hype cycle. Do you, Perry, consider the AI tech disruption bigger than mobile, the internet, electricity? So he's calling out some very significant
Yeah.
technology shifts in history.
Yeah, so in the book, and I'll quickly outline kind of some of the things within the book, and then I'll directly answer that question. So within like the first three chapters of the book, what I wanted to do is give everybody a grounding in AI, what's fundamentally different since 2017, where we are now, and kind of forecast out a little bit. And then for the next few chapters, I talk about the fundamentals of deception and why that works on our, frail human minds. And then I talk about the collision of technology and AI and deception, and how all those create interesting new spaces, this area that opens up that I call the exploitation zone. And then the end of the book is all about this emerging space of science and learning called cognitive security and cognitive warfare. And it's understanding the mental practices, the habits, and the behavior science behind actually fortifying our minds. Because to get directly to the question that you asked, things are fundamentally shifting. And I'm somebody who is old enough to have remembered the birth of the internet. I was back in the dial-up days when connecting to the internet sounded like robots screaming, all the way to the innovation of moving from on-prem to cloud, the iPhone moment, creation of mobile ecosystems, creation of location-based data and sharing, and all the things that have come interesting and weird with that, to where we are with AI. And I do think that AI is fundamentally bigger than all of those. Whether it's bigger than electricity, I don't know, but I think it's maybe on par, because we're going to see a really big change in all of our lifestyles because of what AI is able to do. And one of the interesting things that come, and I'll stop monologuing in a second, is we are living increasingly in a world where AI and reality is blended everywhere. From the stuff that we're used to, like people that we know on Instagram in real life that no longer have pores on Instagram because they've got AI filters, to these help me write with AI buttons that are everywhere, that are now putting the markers and fingerprints of AI all over all of our human, quote unquote, human writing, to the point where AI detection systems are going to have a really, really difficult time understanding what's real and what's AI.
Yeah, it is. I agree 100%. I've been telling. I mean, it's not like this is some hot take, right? But I've been telling people, anyone who will listen, that AI is like it's going to be as ubiquitous as the internet was, and like, could you really imagine going back and like not using the internet? My thing is like you have to use AI because it's going to become so integrated into everything that you do and live and be. It's just like the internet. Like you could not I mean, you could probably, but not really. You couldn't function without the internet in today's society, right? I mean, yes, you could
Yeah.
go to a farm. I'm not saying that like there aren't people that do it, but I'm saying to be a practical contributing member of the larger geopolitical society, you have to use the internet or else you just can't. AI is the same thing. If you're not going to use it, that's fine, but you're going to be left behind. And the next generation is going to come up, fully integrated. Hey, really quick, we got a super chat here coming in from Nerman.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep. Nerman just started his master's in computer science. Wicked awesome, Nerman, with a concentration in AI. Good call. Perry, any AI labs or research centers you recommend he explore?
So what I would say right now, because there's a ton of interesting research being done, especially if you're interested in cyber and things like trust and safety and trusted computing platforms when it comes to AI. Look at the AI. Oh gosh, if you didn't directly ask me, the name would be in my head. But the UK has an AI safety institute that is doing good work. The US just kind of started ramping one up, and we'll have to see if that survives into the next administration. But they are doing some good work. If you want to look at some of the really good research from one of the frontier models out there. Frontier models just means, the best models that are out there, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini, to a lesser extent, maybe Meta and Llama. But if you want to look at some of the best research that's out there, go to Anthropic's website. Their research team is just on fire, and they're getting into things like interpretability, trying to understand, this neural system that they essentially grow. And so it's a little bit of a black box, but they're trying to figure out how can you probe that black box. They're trying to understand fundamental issues like bias and sycophancy. I can't say the word sycophancy within AI systems. The fact that they want to please you all the time. Sometimes they may sugarcoat the truth. So how do you bypass that? And then also deceptiveness within AI systems and how they may try to hide things from us to achieve their own goals. So good research there. And then also just really, really read the OpenAI system cards for every release. They've got a ton of great research embedded in those.
Thank you. Nerman, it sounds like you've got a lot of work ahead of you for, or potential opportunity to get research. I see your questions. Fleetus dropped a question. A couple other people, Mara Levy's dropped questions. I do want to go back here really quickly, if we could for a second, Perry. This is that UK Institute too, I believe. I Googled it. So I'll drop a link to this. It's the AI Safety Institute. It's in the United Kingdom. I'll drop a link in just a moment, but you can see right here, they have the academic research section right there.
Yep.
So let's go back to
and
this.
Again,
really,
U.S. is trying to stand up the same thing. All these are political organizations, so they're at the whims of whoever's in control, and we'll see if which things survive and which things get pared away as the years progress.
So Perry, with your fake book, right? We talk about deep fakes. People know about that. AI generated deceptions, right? We've seen that kind of, the videos are coming out now, which are really wild. But the disinformation one, that one really jumps out because I feel like it's the one that's the most quicksandy. I was kind of surprised at how little disinformation was being implemented during the U.S. presidential election that just passed. There was reports that Russia was trying to get into it. Again, Perry, this isn't a political show, but this is what was reported. Russia was trying to do some stuff. It got kind of circumvented. I'm surprised, like with the capabilities that AI has. Why do you think that? Like, do you have any opinions or thoughts on disinformation in general, but then why is it not being implemented way more broadly right now?
So it is being implemented. It's just really weird. So the fundamental thing that I came away from this election season, and then also just writing the book and doing all the research into it, is disinformation is a fundamental thing. It's a thread that's going to go through everything. And there were tons of videos and images and voice um, clones and everything else out there. I mean, some people may remember the voice clone of Biden that got sent through a call center, or that did a whole bunch of robocalls during the New Hampshire primary. The interesting thing with that is you would typically think, well, they're targeting a Democratic candidate, so it must be a Republican. And I'm not talking politics here. I'm just talking about the way that we would perceive things. Um, Turns out it was a different Democratic operative that was trying to target Joe Biden because they were wanting to put their own candidate in the primary against him. So they figured if the Biden voters believe that they've got it locked in, then their person might actually win that primary and then be able to continue on. And then there were a lot of things from various sides as well. But the effectiveness of all of them was less than we may have predicted, and the fundamental reason that I've found that they've been less effective is because we humans just believe what we already want to believe. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we see the deep fake, um, if it's something we disagree with, we'll just throw it away and go, well, no, like we do with every other thing that we disagree with. And then, of course, if you find out it's a deep fake, you're like, then you're double confirmed. And you're like, yeah, and they're trying to get us and they're trying to trick us and all this other stuff. The other thing is then maybe you see a deep fake that you do agree with and you just get confirmed. And so one of the greatest examples that I saw with that was early October. Hurricane Helene is kind of wreaking havoc across a few different states. And there was a deep fake image of this little girl that looked absolutely miserable, wet and cold and shivering. Her eyes are like really big, welled up with tears, and she's clutching this, drenched puppy in a boat. And that deep fake image started going viral. And of course, people didn't know it was a deep fake at the time. And all of the conspiracy theories and everything else around FEMA started to come into that as well. So it sowed a narrative or confirmed a pre existing narrative in people's minds, and then people on various social media platforms started to realize it was a deep fake, and they would tell the person that posted that, and they would report it to the platform. And one of the really interesting things, and it was a political person that said it on X. I'm not going to call them out by name or mention their party or anything, but they said, actually, they said, y'all, I don't know where this photo came from. And frankly, I don't care. I'm going to leave it up because it is emblematic of the reality that's going on. And so what that did is I think it really crystallized that we live in a post-truth society. And even when you show somebody that the thing that they're looking at is fake, they don't care if it represents what they believe is a truth. And that was a big wake up call for me.
Wow, that is heavy stuff, dude. I haven't heard that term before. Oh, there we go. So this is we've got the picture right now. I have the mod team is so amazing. Um,
Nice.
Look at this. So right here, you can see. I'll bring it up, and you tell me you think it's real or fake. Boom. There we go. This is it right here. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Looks real. Looks very
Yeah,
real
I mean, it's
and
pretty good. I
very.
mean, and it is heart-wrenching, right? So all the components of story are there. And I think that's why deep fakes go viral, and that's why cheap fakes go viral too. So you take something out of context, or so on. There's always a story component that has heavy emotion. If you're one of the people that's mad at FEMA or wondering what's going on with society, well, then there's naturally heroes and villains, and there's people that need to be saved, and all the things that automatically just unwrap with that single image. all of that history and everything else just goes, and then automatically you're forming an opinion, or you're sharing it, or you're angry commenting, or so on. And I think that it's going to be an interesting few years as AI continues to kind of create this more and more post-truth society. And there's tons of other sociological research that we could bring into like what that means.
Yeah, it's wild because when I think of how deep fakes were going to be weaponized, I was thinking much more of like, oh, here's a video of Biden punching a puppy in the face, or here's a picture or a video of Trump, I don't know, like taking money out of the Salvation Army bin, right? Like just so I touch on both parties.
Hmm.
And it seems like it's not. It's much more, at least in this instance, it's much more about controlling populist sentiment and
Yeah,
control it, almost like like weaponizing and moving the herd in a certain direction to achieve your goals. It's very, very big brain, right? Like what I'm thinking is like
yeah.
very like, transactional and very uh not primal, primeval.
Yeah,
Hold on.
well, I mean, it does kind of work at a primal part of our thinking, right? It's very us versus them, very good versus evil, and I think that's the power of a photo. But the thing that I have started to tell people is, because of the fingerprints of AI being all over everything, and the fact that most of the detection tools are not very good right now, and probably will never be very good for various reasons. Um, I tell people I don't care if something is real or fake anymore. What I care about is why does it exist? Why did it land in front of me? What story is it trying to tell? What emotion is it trying to evoke? And then ultimately, what does it want me to do or believe?
Yeah, that is an interesting way to kind of frame it for yourself as you're ingesting new
Yeah.
information. Perry, let's do some questions from chat because the Simply Cyber community hashtag TMSC in chat has a lot of good questions. So Mara Levy, by the way, if you ever run into Mara Levy at a conference, she's got great stickers. Since social engineering
Nice.
relies, yeah, she does. She's really got good ones. Since social engineering relies heavily on psychological tactics, is it possible to counteract these by reverse engineering the same principles? And how can human weaknesses be turned into strengths?
Um, So it is difficult, but there can be some things that have been done, or that have been done that show possibility and show some hope. One of the things that I'll point you to, if you're interested in research in this, is look at what the small, tiny country of Estonia did after being the product of Russian disinformation for decades. Look
Mhm.
at what Taiwan is doing after being the target of Chinese disinformation for decades. Look at Finland and Switzerland. All of them have incorporated media literacy training, digital literacy training, and understanding about disinformation within K to 12 programs. And we have a generation where we kind of have to equip everybody the same way that we did, like learning about seatbelts. I remember back in my day, seatbelts weren't required, and then all of a sudden, legislation was passed, and everybody had to wear seatbelts, and you had to go through this adjustment period and retrain your habits. Now you kind of feel naked and unsafe if you don't have a seatbelt on. And if you're a parent and you have kids in the back seat and you don't put your seatbelt on, that they scream at you because they feel unsafe for you. We can retrain our mindsets. We can retrain societal habits. It just takes a while. It takes a concerted effort with everybody pulling together to do it. The other thing, when you talk about the psychological tactics and to counter these by reverse engineering the same principles, within the last 3 chapters of the book, I do have a ton of like games and exercises that people can do. And one of the more visceral one is create your own piece of disinformation. So think about a narrative that you would want to sow. Maybe it's taking down a certain company. What image or what video or what audio clip might you manufacture to put with that? What would be the clickbait headline? what would be the story that would sell that to you specifically, and actually go create that. Don't put it out online or anything, but go through it and do it for yourself. Maybe show it to your friends and family, and do some things like that together. Because as soon as you step into the mindset of the person that's putting that together, the more resilient you are when you're doing your own doom scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn or the news cycle.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's something I would argue. Again, I'm basing this on my own individual experience, but it's something that you have to kind of train yourself to. Again, now that I make content, anytime I'm consuming content like a general consumer, and I stop and I'm like, oh my god, and I like double click in or I want to see it. Whenever I'm done, I like switch my brain and I say, go back to the beginning. What was it about? Why did I get so excited about this? Was it the words they
Mhm.
used? Was it the colors they used? What was it? Because it obviously worked on me, and I feel like I have free will and independent choice. But I I'm not doing my work right now because I'm reading something on Twitter about you know whatever. So it is pretty crazy. Perry, I do want to share one thing with you. I love
Yeah.
this. Justin Gold just found this in chat for me. Um, well, let me turn the audio down. There is a hilarious, you talked about, um, you just mentioned it about like introducing rules and laws and how I forget exactly what you were, what you were talking about, what law, because it slipped my brain. We saw Nick Barker in chat talk about how people, or like get mad because they can't drink 5 beers and drive home now with DUI
Right.
laws. I don't know if you've ever seen this or if anyone in chat has seen this. It is early YouTube gold. Like this to me is like gold, gold, gold. Let me share this right here. I'm gonna do it this kind of screen. Have you seen this one, Perry?
I have not. I
So
have
this is
not.
this is people reacting to DUI laws, and oh, this is a different one than I thought. This guy right here is talking about how bullshit, like how angry he is that like I work a double shift down at the coal mine, and I don't think it's fair that the government's going to come in here and tell me that I just can't have a couple brews on the way home. Like they're like legitimate. This woman, this is my favorite part. This woman's talking about how big government's ruining her life, telling her she can't drink and drive. There's literally a baby
Oh, wow.
riding
Not
shotgun,
in a car seat or anything.
riding shotgun. I mean, she does have a seatbelt on, so she's got that going for her. But like, it's outrageous. It's just outrageous. And if you hadn't seen that video before, it's like I said, internet gold.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Let's keep going through chat. And see what's up. Fleetus wants to know, what are your thoughts about how LLM and RAG grow in 2025? And before you answer that, for my own benefit and for anyone in chat who's not
Yeah.
aware, can you clarify? So I believe LLM is basically the training model behind AI, but I'm not really sure what RAG is. If you can just qualify
Okay.
those two elements, please.
Yeah. So LLM stands for large language model, and we typically think of that as text in, text out, though they're growing significantly where you hear about multimodal large language models. So it's kind of less of a language model at that point, more of a large model, and just means that it's got uh, some of the smaller ones have between 3 billion and 70 billion parameters, and some of the larger ones have hundreds of billions, even trillions of parameters, what we're going to be growing into, which means just kind of linguistic and semantic connections, or idea-based connections that very much simulate human thought. RAG stands for retrieval augmented generation. And so in a large language model, you have your pre-trained model that has a knowledge cutoff because they had to throw all of this stuff from the internet and books and everything else in it. And like in with ChatGPT, it is October 2023. With Claude, it is sometime newer. I think it's like April 2024 is their knowledge cutoff. And then on top of that, they put this reinforcement learning and alignment process that's kind of trying to tame the large language model, because of course on the internet you do have every bad thing as well as every good thing, and you're trying to get the personality and the bias in it and out of it, that get the bias out that you don't want and in that you do want, so that it gives predictable results. And that is another couple months of training in it. RAG is a way to help overcome some of the limitations that come with having those training cutoff dates, like October or April of this year. Because at that point, it's like it doesn't know anything about the presidential election. It doesn't know anything about news that's recent. And so retrieval augmented generation kind of gives you the possibility to preload things in, and to what is in some of these systems is called like a knowledge base, where you can upload knowledge documents like PDFs or so on. Or in a more kind of Wild West method, it can reach out into the internet and try to supplement stuff. And we're seeing all the models try to deal with this. OpenAI just allowed web search to be fundamental with the ChatGPT results, so we're seeing that grow. Um, Claude and the Anthropic model is a lot more cautious. They don't want open web access, though you can upload your own knowledge into it. And what we're going to see is we're going to see people trying to blend that in different ways, both in the end user models they get out that are kind of like your chat interfaces, but then also in the application programming interface models where you can support knowledge or web search or all that. They're always just trying to overcome the limitations of that fundamental training date cutoff. Now, I think there's interesting possibilities, and there's also interesting weaponization that can come from that. Because at the end of the day, you're feeding new information and you're also changing the default bias of the system, which means you can achieve new good things if you're trying to get things that maybe have your own company's knowledge base and you're wanting to be able to serve that up in a consistent way. But also, you can potentially weaponize that by uploading documents that have negative biases or misinformation or disinformation. Or let's say it rags out to a trusted website for some bit of augmented information. And now you change the content on that website to do something that exploits the model in some way through simulating prompt injection or just putting disinformation on the website, because you've essentially created a watering hole attack with RAG at that point.
Wow, that is deep, deep information. Thanks for the question, Fleetus and Perry. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Rich464. Now, this is starting to get into Justin Gold territory. This may or may not be a conspiracy theory, but there's been discussions. Have you seen this? You know, people are walking around all over the place. My kid walks around Pokemon Go, mapping out everything, and all this data is being used to build some type of AI. What are your thoughts about this story particularly, and then more about wholesale training AI using humans as like basically the gophers?
So whether that was used to build AI or not, I don't know. What I will say is nobody inside Nintendo would let that data go to waste, right? If you're getting all that mapping data, all that social interaction data, because you're also seeing people that are next to each other through interesting, location-based and proximity-based data, you're getting behavior patterns. All that data is not going to go to waste. Somebody's going to find a way to use that, either in advertising or selling that data to other things, or creating behavior-based profiles that they can use for other purposes. That data will be used. The thing that I've been showing people recently is, like the really really sucky early versions of AI fun that has existed on social media for a while, like like on TikTok and Snapchat and others, where you can have like the shock filter and you upload a video and all of a sudden everybody's eyes are big and they've got these weird expressions. Um, think about the fact that hundreds of millions of people have uploaded images and videos into those. And if you are getting that for free, of course, then you're the product. And so that has enhanced the ability for them to train on all of that data, that then can create either more fun, silly things that are innocuous, or can be put to, let's say, let's understand not only how real people look, but how discrete people groups look. So you understand the different facial bone structures and facial symmetry differences between different people groups, because now you have this really, really rich data set You also understand location data and everything else that's augmenting and becoming metadata for that image data that you uploaded. And so the crappy stuff from 3 years ago that we would see from Wombo and the filters have been augmented by us uploading hundreds of millions or even billions of additional images that then can go into training data that can create new models that can either do fun stuff or can be weaponized.
Yeah, it's a little scary, and you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah. So hey, I do. We're at 45 minutes into the show, and we got about 15 minutes left. But I would be remiss. I would be doing an awful job as a community leader and as a host of this program if I didn't spend some time talking about the John Henry competition at DEF
Oh yeah.
CON's Social Engineering Village. So, really quick, just to kind of set it up, the Social Engineering Village at DEF CON is really, really well known, super famous. People wait in line for hours to get in there. And essentially, someone gets put in a booth and they make a phone call and they try to solicit a bunch of information. You get points for, like, oh, if you can find out what operating system the business runs, you get points. If you get a password, you get a lot of points. And Brady McNulty from the Simply Cyber community actually competed. You don't just walk up and walk in, like you set it up in advance, but he competed. And this year, Perry Carpenter competed, but not in the way that you might suspect. And given that you've been listening to him for 45 minutes, I'm sure you can guess how he did it. But Perry, tell us about your experience at the DEF CON Social Engineering Village this year.
Yeah. So I had shared with the organizers some of the research that I had done. So essentially, one of the things that I created way back in March of this year, God, it's been a long time, was I used a piece of back-end software that very few people knew about at the time, and some of that capability is being put into other pieces of software now that people are more familiar with. But essentially, what it lets you do is hook up a back-end large language model of your choice, from all the frontier models that we are very aware of to some of the smaller models that people are unaware of, but hook that up to a voice streaming service, so text to speech service, and then push that out through a piece of call center software. And I looked at that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So now I could give a voice to the large language model that somebody can communicate with in real time. It was interruptible and all of that. And this was way before Chat GPT advanced voice mode started to show what was possible. And even that, I think a lot of people are unaware of what the possibilities are. But I was able to do that. And the day that I saw that software, I ran to my hotel room. And actually, within 15 minutes in the hallway of me seeing that, I put together the prototype. And then later that night, I went and refined it, and I cloned Kevin Mitnick's voice, who is a good friend of mine before he passed away, and essentially kind of brought him back to where he could do phishing calls. And I showed that to a few people, and within a couple times of showing that and routing it to different voices and doing different scenarios, the organizers of the Social Engineering Village said, "We have an idea. We know that this is going to be the future, but we just need a guinea pig to try it the first time." And so they invited me. I brought Lisa Flynn on, who's another AI researcher, and we put together several different bots, and we got to compete in the competition against the organizers of the competition. So people who do vishing for a living. And what we saw in the first call is everybody's jaw dropped. Like I was looking through that little window at everybody in the audience, and every flag that the bot got, everybody got a little bit more excited and a little bit more awestruck. And I remember the person kind of running sound that was right outside the window. His grin was so freaking big, and every time he was just like, "Oh my!" Getting more and more excited because this first bot that we launched kept somebody on the phone for 9.5 minutes.
A real human,
It
by the way, a
A
real
real
human,
human.
unaware, talking to AI, was kept on the phone for 9 minutes, giving up secrets.
Yeah, gave up every flag that we had asked that bot to get. The bot helped them figure out a technical issue that they had. It made the person laugh by cracking a joke, and then ended the call gracefully. And then we did, bot after bot after bot after that. We went through 4 different bots, I believe, extracted a number of different flags, but we did lose to the human team just by a hair because they had a better pretext than we did that got higher point value targets like right up front. But that means that I can take their pretext, I can put that into the prompt for the large language model, and then I can do that same thing at scale, where I could do that against thousands of people at one time instead of just one to one. So I thought that that was a lot of fun. Passed the Turing test a couple times over, and really, really shocked everybody in the audience and showed them what was possible.
Yeah. So I hope you can understand and appreciate, chat, why I wanted to make sure that we had time to talk about this. When Perry and I got on the phone call, we do a monthly, a couple months ago, and he told me about this, and I nearly fell over. It was unbelievable. And honestly, I wish it had been better promoted, because I was at
Mm,
DEF CON and I didn't even know about this. I would have been right there. So Perry, like, obviously this was a really interesting exercise, but there's potential here. Where are you
yeah.
going with this? What's the next step?
That's a interesting question. So some of the things that I was exploiting in that, well, all of them still exist. So all the exploits still exist. One of the fun things with it was that first bot that kept somebody on the phone for over 9 minutes. That was not a jailbroken large language model that I used. That was OpenAI, and I used standard prompts. I actually told it was competing in DEF CON, and that we wanted to trick people out of these objectives, and that worked. There's another one that I do, actually a couple ones that I do that are very, very jailbroken, where you're pushing the models way past their trust and safety boundaries. And I'm emulating like fake kidnapping scams, and they're threatening people and cursing people out and all of that kind of stuff. So with either of those, I've seen those work in all these other little agent technologies that are popping up. So 11 Labs, one of the really good voice text to speech and voice cloning services, recently added their conversational agents that will hook up to a large language model and then let you route through a voice model. I jailbroke that within 2 minutes of having access of it. And then HeyGen, which is a video avatar company, just released a service that lets you essentially do the same thing. Hook up a large language model to a video avatar that you created, and they give you access to send that to a Zoom meeting. So, what do you think my next step is?
Yeah. All right. What was the name of that platform?
HeyGen, HEYGEN.
HEYJEN. Hey Jen. Okay. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
seen these AI avatars. I mean, the ones I've seen, I've played with a little bit. I actually had one make a video for Simply Cyber a year ago, and they were a little clunky at the time. You could kind of tell, but based on what I've been seeing with the space, they're getting much more fluid. A lot
Yeah.
less, more closer to 10 fingers.
Yep. Yeah, they're getting way, way better. So the stuff that sucks now, maybe it still sucks in 6 months, but it'll suck less.
What are your thoughts for the future? Like, bigger picture future for humans?
There's a phrase that we're going to hear more and more over the next few years called the liar's dividend, which basically means that we live because of this kind of post-truth era that we're in, and everybody is becoming more aware that deepfakes are a thing. They're going to hear times where deepfakes have fooled people, and so on, that the only people that stand to gain are the deceivers that are out there. Because now, let's say I'm a political person and somebody catches me on tape saying something that I shouldn't have said or doing something that I shouldn't have done. Well, one of my first things that I can go say to everybody is, well, that's a deep fake. It's a politically motivated deep fake by people that want to take me down. And you have to at least give a little bit of credibility to that thought. And you have to do an investigation because you know it's possible. At the same time, if I were to launch a deepfake attack, because we are narrative driven, story driven people that are very prone to confirmation bias, Well, if I do a really good deep fake, well, then that's going to work too. And we're seeing people try to deal with this through regulation and meta tagging and provenance marking and all of that. All of that's not going to work very well. I can obliterate meta tags just by taking a screenshot or editing the video. I can eliminate provenance marking. People probably won't even know what that means. I can crop in and get rid of watermarks. All that kind of stuff is just for the lazy scammers or the curious scammers that don't know that that exists. If you're aware of that, you can get around that in a heartbeat right now, at least. Um, and the regulations that are trying to take care of deceptive deepfakes, as opposed to like parodies or something, will tell the social media platforms if you're above a certain if you're above a certain revenue level and above a certain user count, then if you spot a deceptive, politically motivated deepfake, you have 72 hours to take it down. Um, for me, 72 hours is an entire news cycle. If I created a really good deepfake, I could have people fighting in the streets, killing each other within less than 72 hours. So I think we're going to be dealing with the fact that regulation and institutions have a hard time keeping up with the fact that the technology that we have is accelerating so quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely Brave New World type stuff that we'll have to manage, and I think it's going to be an effort of everybody to contribute, not just like large federal governments and stuff like that to
Yeah.
to manage the risk. It's much bigger. What kind of as we're getting ready to finish off, what kind of AI related tech are you seeing that's like really fun or really interesting, and definitely like you're looking forward to playing with, or the potential of what it can do for yourself, Perry, or for the larger society?
Yeah, I love AI creative tools, and I know that there's issues with the initial training with those and some of the ethics that needs to be worked out. But if you look at things like Runway AI and their Gen 3 video creation models, there's a whole new generation of creativity that can be unleashed for people that really that want to go beyond creating AI slop. So AI is a big democratizer. It can make anybody create something that's between mediocre and good.
Hmm.
But people who are very creatively minded that want to get in and play with Runway or Midjourney or any of the other tools, you can take somebody that is pretty good at something and level them up to where they can be amazing. And you can take somebody that's amazing with something and level them up and enhance their creativity beyond what they thought was even possible a few years ago. So if you approach the tools with the right mindset and you're a creative person, man, there's so much potential that's in front of you. At the same time, if you approach the tools with a little bit more nefarious purposes, well, now I can make a deep fake of Jerry saying or doing anything that I want, and I can use Runway Gen 3. What do they call it? Act One for that, because I can go in and I can record myself, I can clone your voice, I can animate your face, and I can do all that within just a few seconds because that's where the technology is. So everything's getting really, really good, and there's going to be three groups of people that use it. One is people that are doing really good creative work. The other one is going to be people that are doing really, really bad things to people in society. And the other is going to be people who are merely curious that are just creating a bunch of crap and throwing it out over the internet.
Just mass producing content so their TikTok channel can grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's very good, and I love it. I hope creatives get busy doing it. I think from a GRC perspective, got to work my GRC mafia love in,
Nice.
making compelling end user awareness, modifying behavior is going to be huge, and you can do it like fast, and based on an incident right there at work, you can, instead of writing an email, you could just make a quick little video and AI generates it and off and going.
Hmm.
I do say it really quick. It wouldn't be a party. How do I share this on screen? It wouldn't be a party unless James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet was here, and he did jump in here and said hello to you, Perry. So James with a super chat.
Nice.
Did we just become best friends? Yep.
Thank you very much, James McQuiggan at 35,000 feet. Always great info from Perry. How do you know this isn't AI, Perry? It's a good question. It is a good question. It could be AI Jerry, AI Perry, and you guys have no
Ooh.
idea. We've gone
Yeah.
next level. I love it.
We should do a show like that. Well, I could set it up and we could do like a 15-minute show where we just have two AI versions of ourselves chat at each other.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it, Perry. Let's absolutely do it. James McQuiggan gave a talk at Wild West Hackin' Fest that had deep faked AI me moving around doing things. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it's like my profile picture, and then the profile picture turns and starts talking in my voice. So yeah, if you want to do it, Perry, that'd be a hella fun project. And I would, if you wanted, I would host it on Simply Cyber, and we could do it as like a little experiment to demonstrate the capabilities.
Nice.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, probably for the first one, I'll just do a pre-created video that has both of us doing it and then shoot that out. And then we could try to do a live version where it's a large language model and a speech system. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying even the pre-recorded video, we could this platform can play it like, as a thing, and
absolutely
we could launch with it and see if anyone notices, and then come on live like 10 minutes later, and be like, "Whoa, you've been busted." All right, hey, Perry, any upcoming speaking engagements or anything that people who are obviously loving your work and want to know more about you, where they can see you or get more info? I know you got the book. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah. So the book is the big thing right now. I'm winding down speaking for the year. I've got one more speaking engagement after I get back home from Melbourne. Next year, I'll be doing all the standard things. I think one of the things I've got going is National Cybersecurity Alliance Convene. I'll definitely be at RSA, DEF CON, Black Hat, all of those things as well. So be sure to check me out. I should have some advanced research by then. The other interesting thing that you may want to jump on, in addition to the book, is what started out as a little mini-series, audio mini-series for the book that I did and released as a podcast called The FAIK Files, as fake spelled the same way as it is in the book. That is right now a 10-part mini-series that accompanies the book, and all the little intro sections to the book that have dramatized sections, all of those have been fully sound designed and soundscaped and voice acted, so you can hear what that was like a little bit more in my head as I wrote those. But the week of Thanksgiving, I guess that's next week, we're going to call that Fakesgiving week, and we're going to launch essentially the new Fake Files show that's going to take a lot of the effort that I used to put into Eighth Layer Insights, and that's going to get moved into this. And my co-host Mason Amadeus from Digital Folklore is going to be a big part of that as well.
I love it. So, hey, really quick, I'm glad that you're a good friend, Perry. I pulled this up. Kimberly, maybe you can drop it in chat. My computer is just flaked out now, and like literally, I can't de-zoom in. I can't control anything. Kimberly, if you can come into the studio, I can't even end the stream. Like I literally can't do anything. This is bad. This is bad. Hold on, let me try this.
Now you're just.
Oh, there we go. All right,
there you go.
We're good. We're good. Nothing to see here. Nothing. Like, hold on. All right. All right. So the book is fake. The podcast series is called The Fake Files. FAIK. It looked like you guys have it on YouTube as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it showed up in the Digital Folklore stream because I started to advertise the first 3 episodes of the Fake Files in the streams of the other podcasts that I have.
Okay, well, if you're interested, you can catch it on YouTube or your Apple podcast of choice. By the way, thank you very much, Perry. I love that. Carl! I love that Chad is calling me Carl. Like it was a technical difficulty. I didn't dox myself here. Oh my God!
So well, Carl is the idiot sound person that I used to have in Eighth Layer Insights. So that may be why somebody may be pulling an old joke.
Oh no! So in Simply Cyber community, this is one of the earliest like memes that I introduced. There's a show back in the day called Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and it's ridiculous. It's a milkshake, a meatball, and a large fry that live next to a guy in New Jersey, and the guy is named Carl. And the little emote you can see is Carl's face. But Carl is like, he loves heavy metal. He drives an IROC Z. He wears blue sweatpants and a wife beater, and he just hates his neighbors. But he's kind of a goober, right? So we call Carl. I mean, this is right in your wheelhouse, Perry. We have to deal with end users all the time in information security. They're like actually a big pain point, frankly. And you know, that's fine because their job isn't to secure, their job is to do whatever their job is. And it's our responsibility to help manage them. But when someone has crappy passwords or, you know, plugs a USB drive in that they found in the parking lot that said Bitcoin on it, that's Carl. Like, so we have a Carl sound effect and a Carl emote for it. But I'm glad that you had a Carl in your world too.
I think Carl is just a good name for somebody that's, I apologize to any Carls, to anybody that you just need to have is like that person. Because I love the Carl from Llamas with Hats. And then we've got Carl from my show. That Carl does have a destiny on the fake files, by the way. So people will be hearing from the Carl that was from 8th Layer Insights, but he has an interesting backstory that's going to follow him there.
Oh, that's very awesome. All right. So Fake Files, the fake book on AI. Perry Carpenter, he's got a ton of stuff. 8th Layer Insights, just digital folklore podcast. Perry, I don't know where you find the time, frankly. You are a busy dude, accomplishing a lot and creating a lot of great content. Thank you so very much for joining us today, for giving to the Simply Cyber community. I know I saw it in chat. I think you saw it as well. People were absolutely loving what you were sharing. I think your information was great. New word for me, post-truth. I'll add that to my lexicon and start whipping that around. And we got a bright and dark future ahead of us, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Love what you do, man. I am inspired by your consistency, your creativity, your community, obviously. And thanks so much for inviting me on.
My pleasure. All right, everybody. Thanks so very much. And until next time, stay secure. Content. Keep the cybersecurity train going by connecting with the other Simply Cyber community resources. We have the Discord server that's lively and always keeps the conversation going. You can connect with me directly on LinkedIn. And also every single weekday morning on the Simply Cyber channel, we're doing live daily cyber threat briefings, 8 a.m. Eastern time, as well as Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We're doing live stream interviews with industry experts, and we produce videos that we push out every Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry from Simply Cyber. I hope you